Joining us now is Ojy Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Ojy.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Why are you frowning?
I'm smiling.
That's better.
I'm not laughing, but I'm smiling. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Good morning, Adeswa. How are you?
Good morning, Oji. I'm fine, thank you.
Great, thank you. And we don't have Rufai. I hope we get him later on in the show. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending in Kano State, Nigeria, barely 3 days after the Sharia court in the state sentenced a man to death for allegedly committing blasphemy. Another court has sentenced yet another man to death for raping a minor. The convict, 60-year-old Mati Abdu, was arrested by the police in 2019 after he allegedly raped a 12-year-old girl in Sanyawa local government area of the state. The man was sentenced to death by stoning under Section 127, subsection B of the Kano State Sharia Code Law 2000. According to the public relations officer of the court, the prosecuting counsel tendered all the evidence before the court, and the convict confessed to committing the crime. The verdict has come at a time when there is still outrage over the death sentence handed to musician Sharif Yahaya for blasphemy. All right, so this death sentence by the Sharia court continues to be a debate over social media, but I think that this verdict comes at a time where Nigerians have been advocating for the death sentence for rape. A couple of harsh sentences have, come down on rape cases in Nigeria. But I am one not to advocate for capital punishment, let alone a barbaric one like stoning to death.
I'm totally on that boat with you. I do not, it sounds very barbaric, but, how do you argue for and against at the same time? Raping a minor and then stoning to death. But I think that we cannot every day have these issues, protests on social media. I think the root of this is a constitutional reform. We need to decide what we really want. Dr. Abati keeps talking about, sort of two laws for one country, one for the northern part and one for the southern part. It all boils down to the Constitution.
Well, it's as follows. By the way, the picture of the gentleman that was put on screen, that's the musician.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I said. It is for the musician. This is the outrage that people are... This is who started the outrage over the...
the strap says something else. Anyway, in other words, what we're dealing with here is something of great concern to Nigerians. As I've always said, the Sharia law, which is divine law, and for Muslims is immutable, but it's a personal orthodoxy. You are tried under it when you submit yourself to it, okay? And then the main issue there is traditional Islamic jurisprudence. But the other part of it is how it is interpreted by those who apply the law. So you'll find Muslims telling you that, look, what has been done in both instances is consistent with Islamic jurisprudence under Sharia law. But one major issue that I think we need to focus on is the need for reform of even the Sharia law itself, beyond any other argument about its place within the constitutional order in Nigeria. Because in many countries, even Muslim countries, over the years there have been reforms. But death by stoning is a provision in Sharia law. Corporal punishment is there. Sometimes they will say a man should be given certain lashes of the cane. But, it will look strange to people who are not Muslims. But as I've said, maybe we need to learn from other jurisdictions to reform the body of laws under the Sharia law. And perhaps the time has come for that. Now, if you look at the two individuals, the musician and this 60-year-old man that raped a minor, both of them pleaded guilty. And that's where there is another concern, because the two of them may just refuse to go on appeal. The Sharia court, in both cases, had given time, about 3 weeks, during which they are expected to go on appeal. And that is consistent with their right to fair hearing.
Yes.
But would they do so? For them to be able to do so, that's why I've been advocating that civil society should take special interest, not just in the case of the musician, but also in the case of this old man, this 60-year-old man who has admitted rape. Now, Is there any reprieve for him under the secular courts?
Do you mean for this man, the 60-year-old
The 60-year-old.
man? The court has given him a month to appeal.
Yeah, but he can go to the secular court also. He can go on appeal so that his eventual punishment will not be death. You know, it will be in line with what is in the constitutional order operative in Nigeria. Now, for the two of them to be able to appeal, they must be allowed access to their lawyers. Because I've read one or two stories about the musician being kept in a section of the prison where nobody could access him. He should be allowed to have access to his lawyers. He should be allowed access to people who may want to assist him with the appeal. The same with the self-confessed rapist. So our laws, you know, provide you an opportunity to go on appeal, to exhaust all available avenues to you. But if you admitted, if you plead guilty, and you have admitted that you are guilty of rape, well, maybe perhaps you can get some reprieve under the secular courts so that the punishment will not be death. It will be consistent with what the Court of Appeal will consider appropriate.
Yes, well, I'm always against capital punishment anyways, but, you know, they still do practice it in the United States. I think that the conversation in parts of the United States, yes. I think the conversation should really be about the sentencing, the appropriate sentencing for rape cases in Nigeria. I believe Lagos State has sentenced at one point in 2018 3 men who actually defiled a 12-year-old girl to 60 years in prison. So I think, you know, those are the types of conversations that we should be having at this point. Let's take another story. As the 2020 International Youth Day was marked on Wednesday, leaders from across the world shared their advice with the youths in their various communities. In Nigeria, former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, while delivering a keynote address at an interactive session held virtually to mark this year's event, told the youths to dislodge the older generation from leadership positions, urging them to participate actively in the activities of political parties. According to him, unless older people are forced out of the political stage, they will continue to occupy leadership positions to the detriment of the youth. Quoting the former president, unless you squeeze out those who are in office and those who want to remain in office perpetually, some after the age of 80, unless you squeeze them out, they will not want to be out. Well, meanwhile, the governor of Benue State, Samuel Ortom, while speaking at the International Youth Celebration held in Makurdi, said Nigerian leaders, including himself, have failed the youth. The governor said leaders need to ask God for forgiveness for failing to carry out their responsibilities. He described the fight against corruption as selective, stating that there are some politicians considered sacred cows, despite stealing billions of naira, while others are made to take the fall. The governor, however, advised the youth against insulting their leaders on social media, but rather use the platform to create wealth. I mean, this is nice for the governor to admit that he, in particular, has failed the youth. What's your take? Let me take my breath.
I think that there's a truth serum going round, you know, from President Olusegun Obasanjo to even the Governors Forum that admitted that there was trust deficit between government and the people, and now Governor Samuel Ortom, who says leadership has failed. But these are not things that we do not know. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo said the youth should squeeze them out. And I'm wondering how exactly would they do so. I agree that, you know, more youth participation is needed.
Yes.
But when you look at the barriers that are put in place for the Nigerian youth, it is such a Herculean task for them to break those barriers. For instance, political parties' nomination forms and forms of intention are not cheap.
Exactly.
The Not Too Young to Run bill was just set in place. Yes, we are seeing some changes. We're seeing very young speakers, for instance, in Oyo State. I think it was Benue State as well that has a young speaker. But how many of them can afford those forms to even participate? To start with. You know, so yes, we would like to see them become the leaders. After all, they say, the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. But for the Nigerian youth, there are just so many challenges, that makes the future look so bleak. They don't believe in that tomorrow because the older generation has failed and they continue to grab power by all means.
Right.
So,
well, the former president also mentioned that, a way that the youth can participate actively is by forming a party whereby their constitution would state that at least 50% of their members should be, 40 years old.
Many of those political parties.
Yes,
we have seen them.
Yeah.
You see the parties of Omoyele Sowore, the former deputy governor of the CBN Bank.
But I think he's just saying we should do more. We only saw Sowore really actively involved.
So many more.
And we saw Banky W as well.
Exactly.
But, I think that we should I think the advice is really valid.
It is just a long way to go.
All of these statements were made in the context of the celebration of the International Youth Day 2020. And there were other leaders who made their statements. Well, the statements by Governor Samuel Ortom, what he said is a no-brainer. Even the young people that he was addressing are also of the view that Nigerian leaders have, disappointed them or, failed them. And that's why there is that intergenerational argument about old people refusing to give their today so that the tomorrow of the youth could be better. But of course, he also made the moral point that young people should not follow their own example. And he included himself in that charge. And he went for that to say that Nigerian leaders should ask God for forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yes.
Well, in every situation, we end up blaming God because our people are very religious and spiritual. I don't think that is God that has caused the problem. No. If Nigerian leaders are looking for forgiveness, it's for them to turn a new leaf. Now that some members of the leadership elite have recognized what the problem is, Samuel Ortom himself in particular, now let him turn a new leaf in his own state and show a good example so that the people of his state, Benue State, can now turn around and say, oh, we have one leader here who is different from the others and who is behaving differently. It's not enough to state the problem as it is. As for President Obasanjo, he made very concrete suggestions. And he has been in the business of providing leadership training for young people for decades. And that event was even organized under the auspices of one of the agencies that he has that focuses on leadership and catching them young.
Yes.
Now, many young people in Nigeria assume that for them to be in politics, somebody will come to your house to come and invite you. The enlightening point that the President Obasanjo was making is that nobody is going to invite you. One, you yourself, you have to show interest. You have to be part of it. Many years ago, some of us, we came together and we formed what we call the Progressive Action Movement, which was a movement, mobilizing young people, a forum for us to begin to mobilize for politics. And there were persons who wanted to join us. And they will come around and ask the question, how do I join politics? And we used to tell them, look, our next meeting is on so-so-so day at so-so-so location. Just come. It's a movement. Be part of it. Nobody is going to come and send application form to you in your house. Okay, so that is... Yes, of course. We have a very large, community. I mean, some of them later went on into politics. Some are still in government today, occupying positions. So that's one leg of it. The President, Obasanjo, was also suggesting that perhaps there's need for constitutional amendment, a compulsory provision, a kind of affirmative action for young people to say to which the Nigerian constitution should be amended, stipulating, for example, that 50% of party positions in every political party in Nigeria must be reserved for young people. But for that to happen, you will need advocacy, a youth-led advocacy and process. Yes. That is the gravamen of the point he was making. You see the not too young to rule,
not too young to
run movement that led to the reduction of the age of qualification for certain categories of position. That was a product of advocacy. And we can have advocacy, with regard to youth participation in this direction. And the whole point is not just about the failure of the subsisting order or the leadership elite. It's about the recognition of the position in the Barcelona document that young people have a role to play in the development process, and they themselves must show interest. You must be aware. But for us to get that crop of young people, we need to worry about the education system to make sure that we are training people who are enlightened, who understand their civic responsibilities, and who are ready to become agents of change for Nigeria's good.
Very good point, Dr. Abati. Well, let's take another story. The Ooni of Ife, Oba Ogunwusi, on Wednesday added his powerful voice to the ongoing call for the scrapping of Nigeria reality show, Big Brother Naija. The monarch said the show misrepresents the goodness and integrity of the Nigerian youth. The Ooni, who was speaking at an interaction with some youth who visited him as part of the celebration of the International Youth Day, advocated for a new show that would be more beneficial to young people. He appealed to them to redeem themselves as a matter of urgent public importance. In expressing his concern, the Ooni added, in quote, "In the last general election, the total number of votes cast was around 27 million. While over 170 million people voted during the 2019 Big Brother Naija reality show. This is a practical reality of who Nigerian youth are and where our priorities lie as Nigerians." I know we've had this conversation at Desua, people that are advocating to scrap the Big Brother reality show. What is your take on that again?
First, I wonder if the monarch has had an opportunity to
watch the show. I've never
of
seen the show. I don't know really what it's about.
All right. So I think that Oba Ogunwusi, since his ascension to the throne, has Ogunwusi, since his ascension to the throne, has paid attention and interest to matters concerning youth and youth development, and that's good, you know. But on this matter of Big Brother reality show, I think there's too much credit given to this reality TV show. If we do agree that 70% of our 200 million population is made up of youth, and we think that 20 at most that they have at that reality TV show, 20 young Nigerians who decide to live their lives in front of camera, you know, is the cause of the problem, I think it's too much credence and too much credit given to them. I think we should also pay more attention to, you know, successive leadership failure, corruption, bad governance that has led to despondent, neglected, frustrated youth who are in their droves leaving for Canada or wherever they think that, you know, the grass is greener, rather than focus on, you know, 20 people who live in front of the cameras. Can we also think that perhaps this is an escape route for these Nigerians? That actually
is my point.
You know,
I
is
think
this an escape route for them? Should we also look at, you know, is there something this is adding to the entertainment industry in the country? You know, he talked about an alternative reality TV show. That is fine. The more the merrier. If you have a reality TV show that, you know, projects the culture, you know, and the tradition and, you know, the prosperity of the Nigerian youth, which many don't see in the horizon, then that's fine. But I think every year we have this clamor to scrap this reality TV show about 20 people living in a house for a few weeks. It's too much credit.
Well, you continue to have a clamor against Big Brother Naija. And the protest against it is religious, it's also moral. 3 years ago, I had cause to do a review of the program after it was concluded, and that caused a lot of furore, people, you know, abusing me and all of that. And the standard defense is that if you don't want to watch it, then, of course, you can just turn the dial and go to another channel. But the fact that many young Nigerians are fixated, are hooked onto that program, has generated concerns from many stakeholders, particularly the religious community. On both sides, on all sides of the aisle, saying that, look, this is a celebration of pornography. 20 idle, as it were, young men and ladies mixed together, put in a zoo-like contraption for a period, and attracted with a prize of huge cash. Now they've even increased the money. I think it's 85 million now. So there is commercialization of human relationship. There is emphasis on sex and pornography. There is also the indexation of money as a major prize for any kind of interaction. This is the basis for the likes of the Ooni of Ife, saying that this celebration of moral depravity will not help society. Religious leaders also opposing that. And okay, if we may use what is going on as example, if you've been watching, now it's all about love, sex triangle, and alcohol. Take, for example, the relationship between Kidwaya, Erika, and Lekon.
Dr. Bati, what time do you have to watch
I'm
this
giving you examples. Now, all of that is about, who will Erika go with? Erika and Kidwaya under the sheets, and we're being told something happened in view of the television, sex on television by children from distant homes. There is a lady called Dorati. Dorati, we have been told, has been informed by her family, her relatives, that she should just stay permanently in that house because they object to the way she has been functioning. Then you have on another hand, you have Ozo and Nengi.
Dr. Bat is giving us a breakdown.
And it's all about, a ship is about to sail, something is about to happen, and whatever is about to happen is all about sex. So it may provide entertainment,
yes, but
many are concerned that, look, you can still have a big Nigerian reality show, but can it focus on something else? And they only provided an alternative.
Yes.
He says he has an idea. And the lady who led the Nigerian Youth Council to his palace volunteered that our foundation, a lady called Elizabeth Jackrich,
yes,
that our foundation is prepared to provide the support for the alternative that the Ooni of Ife is proposing. So the Ooni of Ife is not alone.
Yes.
And there are people like us who watch. Now they've kept the bathroom scenes. They've removed the bathroom scenes a bit.
Why are you watching?
Then we still get details.
I'm just wondering what time
why are you watching?
Because it's entertaining for him. It is entertaining for him. But I think also the point is the fact that the amount of people that are focusing on the show should try to drive their focus more on more important issues in Nigeria.
Okay,
that's really what it is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Don't be
Bati, for
surprised.
cracking me up.
Watch everything.
Dr. Bati is the big brother that sees everything.
Oh, he is the big brother that sees everything.
Let's leave it there.